Hi guys, welcome to another video. I have 7 horror stories, when disaster strikes with luxury purchases. You will not believe some of these. Some of these are literally shocking, some are embarrassing. And wait for number 1 later on because you will not believe that this actually happened. Let's get going. So number 7 on the list of shocking things that have happened with regard to luxury purchases. Well, I was fat shamed. I was fat shamed in Loewe, in which the sales associate told me that I didn't suit the small bag. I needed to buy a bigger bag because I am not petite, and I think he said I am quite big. In which case, yeah, I shouldn't ever buy a small bag. Anyway, we have a whole video all on that, and you can decide for yourself whether I was oversensitive or whether... I think at the end of the day, I know that gentleman was not meaning to insult me. He maybe had a poor choice of words and all the rest of it. But it was a very shocking moment for me. I wasn't prepared for it and I left the store. And has it put me off Loewe? Well, not really. I haven't bought anything from Loewe, but either way, I was fat shamed. So that is number 7. Number 6 on my list is, again, just something, it's just a disaster that just shouldn't happen. And this was, I was given the wrong bag in store, and this was Longchamp, and I've again have a whole video on this. I literally went in, chose the bag. She decided she was going to get one from the back for me that was brand new, hadn't been handled by anybody, which I was very grateful for. She packaged it up beautifully for me. I took it away, and when I got back to the hotel, because I wanted to use it in order to transport some things home, it was the wrong bag. It wasn't the bag that I actually bought. I didn't have time to go back. I couldn't call them. It was an answer phone. We had all this disaster. Anyway, ended up using the bag, and yeah, then I had a whole debacle trying to sort it out. So the upshot is that I managed to get it all sorted via a different store. So this all happened in Regent Street in London, in Longchamp, and in Bond Street I managed to get somebody's details from the gorgeous Nick from Living Life Loud with NJS. And yeah, it got sorted, and the lady could not have been more lovely, and it did get sorted out. However, a lot of people said on my video, which is absolutely true, it's a good job that I knew Nick and I could get somebody's details, because I was getting nowhere with customer services or with the store directly. So I was very, very fortunate to be able to go a different route in order to speak to somebody. But for those people who don't know anybody who has a sales associate, what are you supposed to do? And that is absolute fact. The upshot of this particular case, if you like, is that Longchamp finally did get back to me on email from customer services and told me that because I had used the bag, that was it. There was a very, very short email that basically said, tough, you've used the bag, you can't return it, and that's that. And yeah, I went back and told them exactly how I felt about that, and I still to this day not heard a thing back from them. So they don't know that I've got it sorted. And the customer service through the actual email system, terrible. However, Bond Street customer service, amazing. My lessons for this are: check the item before you leave the store, and secondly, get the details of the sales associate at the time. Even if you're never going to use it again, at least you've got their direct number or WhatsApp or an email or something. So if there is an issue, you can go back and not relying on the general customer services, because they are useless. Anyway, that is number 6. Number 5. I'm only laughing because it is so embarrassing. This is an embarrassing one, but also just, yeah, not very nice. Okay, so I got the call that this gorgeous bag was available for me from Hermes in London, and I said, yes, please. And they said, can you come and pick it up? Yes, I can. So I got the train, got to the station, got on the platform, very excited. And as the train pulled up, the guy that was stood next to me, he had massive suitcases. He realised he needed to be the opposite way on the platform. He swung round with his suitcases, which were massive, and knocked me over, literally knocked me flying. And I, yeah, it wasn't good. He wandered off, didn't help. Oh, it was just awful. I really hurt my ankle. I got on the train anyway because I was not going to miss out on going to get this. And I hobbled onto the train thinking it'll be fine. I probably just twisted my ankle. Anyway, very long story. Ended up in London, just had to get a taxi because I couldn't walk. Ended up buying the beautiful bag. And yeah, I don't regret it for a second. And then ended up just ruining the rest of the day, having to sit in a cafe until it was time for my train and then trying to get home. And that evening ended up in A&E, and I thought I had either broken or fractured my ankle. Anyway, turned out that I hadn't. I'd just badly sprained it. It was extremely painful. I was going to Paris on a girls' trip. I think it was 2 or 3 days later. My ankle was still not great. Anyway, it was a whole thing. But it was very embarrassing being knocked over and hurt on the platform. It was just awful, but all in a good cause because it was for this and I wasn't going to miss out. Was I getting on that train? You bet you I was getting on that train. Nothing was going to stop me. Number 4. This was just another, I wouldn't call it shocking, this was embarrassing, a true embarrassing moment for me. And it does seem to happen to me quite a lot. I was in a store, I was in Christian Louboutin, I think it was in Harrods, I believe it was, and I was trying on these gorgeous shoes. They were, well, in fact they were like ankle boots, and I love them. And I put them on and I was strutting around and yeah, thinking, do you know what, these are crippling, but they are very beautiful. And yeah, anyway, I couldn't get them off. I could not get them off. So when the gentleman came back to help me, my husband was with me and I was saying, help me get these off, and he's trying to get them off, nothing's happening. And then literally the sales associate came back over and asked if they were okay and what I thought, and I said, oh, I think I'm just gonna have a think, thank you, which is always my thing when I'm saying no, I don't want them. And I said to him, could you just help me get them off? And he couldn't get them off. It was so embarrassing. I was literally holding on to the seat and he was dragging my foot and nearly pulling me off the couch. Honest to goodness, it was just so embarrassing, and I thought I was going to have to get a team of people to get these boots off me. It was just awful. Anyway, finally, me completely red-faced and sweating and feeling like I wanted the ground to open up, he finally got them off, and I could not get out of there quick enough. I don't think I've been back there either since. Anyway, it was so embarrassing. It was awful. Anyway, shocking. Okay, number 3, another embarrassing one. I've got 2 really shocking, awful ones to come. But yeah, 3rd on my list is another embarrassing moment of mine, and I have talked about this one before. I was invited to my first ever event at DIOR in Selfridges in Manchester with the gorgeous Susie, and I was so nervous. Back in those days I was super just intimidated about going into any of these stores, and Susie had made it so lovely, and I thought, no, I am going to go to this event. And it was like an afternoon tea event. So you went to store, you could have a look at some of the things, you then went to this cafe to have the afternoon tea, and it was just lovely. It was lovely. But I was going on my own. I was super nervous, as I always am with these things. Social anxiety kicks in, and I think because I was so nervous, I wasn't watching what I was doing. Anyway, I arrive and I'm chatting away, because I do that when I'm really nervous. It just starts gabbling out, and I was chatting to this lady who was actually very, very nice. Susie came over to welcome me and to look after me. She asked me if I wanted a drink. I was driving, so she asked if I should get me a soft drink. I said yes please. Anyway, off she went. I'm chatting away, and then this other lady comes up and I'm gesticulating like this, as I do, and before I know it, I have gone and I have literally hit, not just knocked over, hit the orange juice that Susie had just put on the coffee table at the side of me. Now, I hadn't even noticed it, to be fair, and it went everywhere. And it was orange juice, and it was cream carpet, and it was cream, beautiful, you know, they're like the boucle chairs fabric, yeah, down the side of that, all over the coffee table, all over the cream carpet. I could not have been more mortified. And Susie, and this is why I love Susie so much, she came straight over, she got hold of me and she said, don't worry, I'm sorting it. And she just sorted it. But the worst bit was, and I mentioned this before, I knocked it over the coffee table, and next to it on the coffee table was, of course, for me, there was a coffee table book, one of the beautiful DIOR coffee table books that has a fabric cover. And they're a fortune, aren't they? And they're so beautiful. And I knocked orange juice onto it. And the lady that I was talking to screamed the place down, save the book, save the book. And I honestly, I could not have been more mortified. And I offered to pay for the book. I was paying for the carpet to be cleaned. I was so mortified. And Susie just said, absolutely, don't worry about anything. Calm, everything's fine. You don't need to, don't worry about it. Don't let it ruin your evening. She was so amazing. And so I always thank her for that. And it was just so embarrassing. It was just so embarrassing. It wasn't long after that that the whole of the DIOR concession got remodelled and it's become a lot bigger. And I often joke with her that they did that because they had to, because I ruined the last space that they had. Anyway, that was just so embarrassing. Just what a disaster. That was all my nerves. It was just so, I feel mortified just thinking about it now. Awful. Okay, we're down to the top two. So the second most shocking, and I've only put this as second because I'm not going to talk much about it. But Meredith has just had some items stolen, and it's items that she was sending to Connor for her vlog sale that Connor was going to do for her. And it's her story to tell, and this isn't about sharing any of that, but just an absolutely shocking thing when I saw on Instagram, and obviously I've spoken to Meredith since about it, where she shared on her Instagram stories that certain things have been stolen. And oh my goodness, it's just one of the perils, isn't it, of transporting some of these really expensive things. So yeah, anyway, it's Meredith's story to tell, but I had to include it because it is so awful. How does somebody think it's okay to take somebody else's things? I just don't understand it. Anyway, that is number two. Just awful. And I feel so bad for Meredith, so bad. Oh, and then before I move on to number one, what is even equally as shocking is the reaction she got from somebody that, again, she shared on Instagram, that was somebody saying it was her own fault and that now maybe she shouldn't be so excessive with her spending, as if it was literally karma for buying too many things. It's just awful. That, for me, that's equally as shocking, that somebody's attitude when that happens to somebody is to say something like that to them. Anyway, awful. So we're down to number one. So what is it that is the most disastrous, the most shocking? What horror story can be number one? Well, this is something that one of my subbies shared with me, and yeah, I just couldn't believe that this was an actual true story. But wait till the end, because it has a little bit of a twist in the tale. So yeah, what happened to, she's called Tanya. Now, Tanya is absolutely wonderful. So thank you, Tanya, if you're watching this, for sharing this with me, for allowing me to share this on my channel, because I could not believe this story. So Tanya lent a bag, which was Tanya's first ever Louis Vuitton bag. So we're talking about, you know, top luxury house stuff here. She lent it to her friend for the weekend and didn't get it back, and asked her friend if she could have it back, which in itself is embarrassing and terrible to have to ask. And her friend told her that she'd sold it. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that there with you a second. Her friend sold her bag. And not only did she sell her bag, she kept the money from the sale of the bag. And when Tanya then asked what on earth, she said, I thought you'd given it to me. So I'm sorry, but there are So many things wrong with this, aren't there? Firstly, it was so kind of her to lend her the bag, even if she thought she had given her the bag, to go and sell it immediately. It's just awful. Not to even ask if she could sell it, not to even, you know, ask if she could sell it on her behalf, not even mention the money side of it and whether actually it's Tanya's money, really. The whole thing of it is just wrong, isn't it? So poor Tanya lost her bag, and that was a long, long time ago. And then she's always thought about that bag. And there's an absolutely beautiful ending to this story is that one of her other friends, obviously they're not friends anymore. I'm not surprised. I am not surprised, but they are not friends anymore. However, a different friend found a bag that Tanya had lost all those years ago, and they traced it, as in the serial number, and it had a certain particular ink stain in it. And the friend bought it back for her. She bought it back for her. So Tanya now has been reunited, I think it's something like 10 years later, with what she believes is the actual bag that got sold. So, wow, honestly, shocking. I'm just still reeling of the fact that somebody would have the audacity to sell somebody else's bag. Awful. But anyway, I just thought it was a shocking story. Anyway, they are my top 7 of shocking, disastrous, embarrassing horror stories. I'd love to know any of yours. Put them in the comments below. Which do you think of mine were the most shocking? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on another one.